The experiment that Wikipedia talks about is the Miller-Urey experiment in 1952, when two scientists put a bunch of inorganic chemicals together, and they heated them up and they ran them as a gas through an electric spark. And lo and behold, they found protein precursors or something. But so the answer is yes, you can take inorganic molecules, which are considered to be dead things, and turn them into, well, are proteins living things? Well, it's what living things are made up of. Are they actually alive? Where does the life come in? But those protein things are basically what you will find if you examine the contents of cells. So, did they get the whole picture? Well, what else was there besides the heated up inorganic chemicals and the electric spark? What else was there? The scientist Rupert Sheldrake would say there were morphogenic fields there. And in 1952, no one had ever heard the term morphogenic fields. But Rupert Sheldrake's work says that they're fields, they're invisible fields, and they are used to create morphology, which is structure. So it's just like, if you're in a magnetic field, you don't see a magnetic field unless you've got iron filings that are affected by the magnetic field. This is a different kind of field, the morphogenic field. So in 1952, they had no idea, but they did all this stuff, and they said, yes, you can take inorganic molecules and get amino acid kind of things. But what you'd have to add in, what Rupert Sheldrake's work, is that there's invisible fields that are doing some work on this as well. What was the point of all this? Well, the point is, how did physicality arise? And it seems to me that without Rupert Sheldrake's morphogenic field, you would say you could just have a bunch of dead stuff and, play Dr. Frankenstein, and then you could create a human being or something. But the point is that the laws of thermodynamics that are used in science say that things tend towards entropy, which is less organized. So how is it you can get something more organized? Amino acids are far more considered organized living things than dead chemicals like methane that are used in this experiment in 1952. So it has to be morphogenic fields. And, the more you study what exactly are morphogenic fields, you have to make a huge jump and look in a different direction. Because I'm going to give you the answer. There is something in consciousness. Because I always say consciousness comes first. It has to be. You had to have two conscious scientists in 1952 to come up with the idea how we're going to test this idea that you can take inorganic stuff and get organic stuff out of it. Organic means basically it's life, carbon-based life, bits and pieces of chemicals that can be used for physicality, physical life. So the long and the short of it is, we have to throw consciousness in there. We had to have consciousness of the two scientists to put together the apparatus. They're trying to say in 1952 that, billions of years ago, the Earth was a different kind of a place. And in those days, this went on automatically with sunlight and lightning and pools of water with inorganic chemicals, and you put it all together and you could manufacture living things. And, did the experiment and they got the living things, but they didn't know about these morphogenic fields. And without the morphogenic fields, I don't know how you get rid of the morphogenic fields, but they are here on Earth. How do I know? Well, I read Rupert Sheldrake a long time ago, and I'm not terribly familiar with his work anymore because it was a long time ago. Why do I keep bringing it up? Because things keep slipping in and out of my memory. How do you sense these morphogenic fields? I don't know. I'm going to have to go back and read Rupert Sheldrake again. But, the point that I bring out time and again, consciousness has to come first. And morphogenic fields must be part of consciousness. Why is that? It's because if you're going to build a railway, you've got to have someone go out and map the area where you're going to lay your track, because if there's too steep of a grade, if it's going up too steep, then your locomotives can't push the railway cars up that. And so you're going to have to build, you're either going to have to flatten the mountain or you're going to have to make big circular tracks around the mountain so that you have the grade that a locomotive can use. So all of this pre-planning before the railway happens has got to happen. And all this planning happens with humans, and humans use their conscious minds to do these things. So the conscious mind aspect must be involved in anything being creative. So even way back, billions of years ago, before physical stuff happened, those morphogenic fields had to have been here. I'm making an assumption. Kind of, yes. Because, if you go and review Rupert Sheldrake's work, unless he's completely off the wall, and some people do say he's a quack and crackers because, he came later than those scientists in 1952. And, these schools of thought of scientists, they're very competitive. And they don't want to give anyone a quarter. What it's like. There's only so many millions or billions of dollars of research money available, and they all have to compete to get the research money. So they're very competitive, and they don't want to give anybody, a hats off or something for a good idea. That's the way it is. It was the paradigm shift. Who was that guy? Somebody who invented the term paradigm shift. It's being kept from me. It's very strange, but in my conscious mind, they gave me that little bit, the paradigm shift guy, and then they haven't given me the name, but it's like on the tip of my tongue, but it's sort of over there. It's on the far side of my mind. It's somebody else's control. Someone says, was it Jacob Boehm? It's Kuhn, Thomas Kuhn. Thomas Kuhn said something about paradigm shift, and he basically, to sum it up, it basically means people's ideas of what's accurate change when the old generation of people die. In other words, people hold on to their beliefs until they drop dead. And it's only once the old guard dies that the new ideas can propagate and fester and infect everybody. So in the end, I do encourage you to look into Rupert Sheldrake. You can look into that 1952 experiment by Miller and was it UD? And put it all together and remember what I told you about railways, that the consciousness of the engineers and the architects and the people who mapped, cartographers, and the people who, invented the locomotive, and the people who figured out how to refine diesel fuel from raw crude oil, all of those people had to do their thinking before you could have a railway. So the consciousness has to come first in today's world. And, is it really a big jump in consciousness to say that the consciousness had to be way back in billions of years ago. I mean, if you think somehow that this consciousness wasn't there way back when, then how did it happen? This is how things happen now, and somehow the way that things work with our consciousnesses today didn't work then. That seems illogical to me. But that's just my way of looking at things. I'm Harry Weaver, and that's your daily update on science and who are the beings that are keeping these little tidbits of information from me until they let go and let me have them. People say it's something in your brain, but no, it's not. Everything is in consciousness. And David Wilcock calls the places where all this information is stored the source fields. And, do you have your own personal source fields? And then there's, like a universal source fields where you get downloads from. Well, Keanu Reeves in The Matrix got downloads of how to do Kung Fu. And quite a few people that are talking about the fifth dimension and 5D on YouTube say they get downloads of information. Do I get downloads of information? I used to kind of access this kind of information by muscle testing. And if you haven't looked into muscle testing, that's another thing you need to look into. So you need to look into Rupert Sheldrake, the Miller UD experiment of 1952, and this other thing. And, this is what happens. Do you have this? It's like you're talking about something in your consciousness, and then all of a sudden it's like a brain fart, and it's gone in one ear and out the other. So it seems like, at the front, it's like you're a puppet for some other intelligence that's behind the scene that's running you as the puppet master. That's the way I feel when I'm here at the front talking to you. It's like someone else is metering out the information that gets to me, and then when it wants to yank it out of my mind, it yanks it out. The next talk is going to be about the law of one.